race cars?
Yeah, and so I'm essentially a frustrated race car driver. I got interested partly because I read an interview of Mario Andretti, and Mario was talking about what it took to be a winning race car driver, and he said people have a misimpression that to be a good race car driver you've got to be brave, and the reality is he said to be a good race car driver you've got to be smart and have a strategy. And I was always, I'm an engineer, and I always thought like an engineer, and I said, well, I'm very good at strategy, I thought maybe I'd be a good race car driver. Yeah. So I went and did lessons and learned to drive a race car, and then got involved in some amateur racing, and I was terrible. Yeah. And I may have known what you should do, but I was too afraid to do it. I mean, I thought, Mario Andretti was wrong. You've got to be brave.
Do you have an old car that you used to drive years ago that you missed or anything like that, or was that your old favorite car?
When I was very young, I started a company right out of college, and I didn't really have any money. And I was living in Southern California, and in Southern California, it was all about having a cool car. And I couldn't afford a cool car, and I couldn't afford to lease a car, which is also what people do in California. So I bought a vintage Chevrolet Corvette, and a 50s Corvette, so it was kind of a 50s cool thing.
Wow, this is the best.
And I still have that car today.
Wow.
I've owned that car my entire life. I really like working on cars. It's the one thing that I do that really gets me away from the office. When you're struggling to break a rusted bolt off of a nut, your entire mind focuses on this minor task.
Yeah. It's like coding for me.
Exactly.
You kind of get in the zone.
You get in a zone and
kind of forget about everything else.
Everything else goes away, and it's therapeutic. So
yeah, it really is. What do you think about electric cars now?
Part of my thesis is that we will go to utility type cars, and they will be electric cars, but there'll be a part of society that will want to re-engage in gasoline cars with manual transmissions. Maybe we won't be on public roads. Maybe it'll be at racetracks or driving courses or things like the 17-mile drive in Carmel, California. But I really think that there'll be a yearning for certain moments in your life to get back to what you and I are doing right here.
What I worry about, not just electric cars, but also self-driving cars, which it's a whole other thing, but it's that natural evolution that's also coming fast. Is that when we get to that point, and I think we're still away from self-driving cars. I mean, to me, self-driving cars, it's software. And you learn in our experiences that first 80% of building software you can do pretty quickly, and it's that last 20%, those edge cases, that's what's going to take a long time to really iron out in self-driving cars when lives are at stake. But when we get there, and you and I are going to still want to drive, or people like us. That's what I worry. Will we be legislated out of the ability to drive? Because, part of the safety in the self-driving car material that you read is that if all the cars are self-driving, then they're all basically in the same system, and communicate with each other, and they're all probably going pretty slow, But then there's me and you trying to drive, this car, and we're kind of going to wreak havoc on the system and introduce the danger again. So will you think that that'll actually it'll be outlawed, like we can't drive, or we have to go, like you said, on a special track or a special?
Yeah, I do think.
I think that's going to be a big battle, though.
You can imagine by the time you get to an interstate that it may be that particularly when you've got self-driving semi-trucks. That it may be okay once you get on the interstate, let's let the car do its thing. Tighten up the spacing and what have you. But I do agree with you, and I mean to really have a completely self-driving car is to program the human mind into and the cognitive decision making that we make on millions of pieces of information.
I mean just on this road here, we've had bikers coming each way, coming across, and coming, so if you had a biker just jump out in the lane, you know, and you got another car coming across, you got to make a decision. Do I weave away and save the biker, or hit the other? Like there's so many things, like those little, not just the mechanics of driving, but also those moral,
the ethical part of driving.
Decisions have to be made. And that's what I think is going to take a while before. I don't know. I think it's still another 10, 20, 15 years. I don't know.
I do too. Yeah. Although, even today, having aids that override some of your decisions is an important part of having a car. So.
Absolutely. Back when we first started ICE, you were still living in Los Angeles, right? And you were. I remember we would have these calls every day about what we're going to do, what we're working on, and how we're going to design the platform, and we had met, obviously, and we'd talked, but a lot of times you were like the voice on the phone. You were like kind of like Charlie and Charlie's Angels,
right?
And I don't think you had any interest in being in Atlanta back then, right?
I didn't. In fact, I was living in Beverly Hills. I was a bachelor. I had a BMW. I thought I had it made. I thought I was at the center of the universe. And I would get up early, California time.
Right, that's right. Yeah,
and I would still be in bed, and I'd reach over to the phone on my nightstand and call you guys, and we'd talk and kind of go through, what the events of the day were. Then I'd get up and take a shower and go do my other job. You have a sense in a startup that you're a team, and that you're all in the soup together, and that every decision matters, and everything is life or death, and the pressure is really on you. And I think it's good for the soul in a way to work with a collaborative group of people with a common goal that are really invested in it. It's a hard thing to find, and when the chemistry's right and the mission is right, which fortunately for us was, it's an experience that you hope everybody gets a chance to go through in life, because it really is amazingly rewarding. We had a group, a small group, a handful of us that we respected each other, we yelled at each other, we fought, we stressed over every decision, but we made the decisions and we moved on, and that is part of a great company, having great people who can communicate and have a diversity of views, so you can argue over what's the right way to go, but then make a decision and move on. And that's what we did, just every day. It was fun.
So I always wondered, because I remember the day that I met you when you had bought CPEX, like it was yesterday. It almost seems like last week.
It does,
in a way, right? But I wonder, what were you bought CPEX, but at the end of the day, we really didn't have a platform that was really ready.
Right.
We didn't have any customers. We shut that down pretty quick. I mean, we pretty much started all over. I mean, you had a vision.
Right.
We had some ideas what we wanted to do, but you could have almost done that anywhere, right? You know
Maybe.
what I'm saying?
I had an idea, but I didn't know how to do it. I knew like what the end product should look like, but I didn't know how to build it. I've never written code, or I didn't know about Java. You were the one who said we need to write in Java, and I've given a speech a number of times about the day, that first day, and how you set the direction of the company in 3 or 4 demands that you have of me. I had an idea, but didn't really know how to affect it, and the team that was at that little company has turned out to be an amazing team, and they were the right people at the right moment in time, and we kind of bonded over this mission. So
back then Amazon, I think, was just launching with you could buy everybody was debating whether you could buy a book, whether you should buy a book and put your credit card in to pay $20 to get your book.
Exactly.
And we were talking about let's see if people will do a $500,000 transaction on the internet.
On the internet, yeah. Well, and you again on that first day said to me, we have to embrace the internet. And I remember telling you that you had lost your mind. That the kind of customers that we were going to have, who were utilities and people that own nuclear power plants, that have security forces in their own companies were not going to put commerce on the internet. And you said, no, they are.
Yeah.
And at that time, we had a WorldCom private network that we attached to our customers. And
right.
I told you, no, it's all about WorldCom. Well,
yeah.
You know, WorldCom blew up, the internet took off, you were right, I was wrong. That's why we're good partners. As a chief executive, I'm not big on celebrations, because and that may be a fault, honestly, because I think once you accomplish something, it's expected that we should accomplish what we do. It's why we're here, it's why we're paid. I feel like it's part of, the job, and so we shouldn't celebrate it. And I also feel like when you have a failure, you shouldn't have a funeral. You shouldn't get down on yourself. And we've had, as you know, more failures than we've had successes. And if you dwelled on every failure and bemoaned everything, you never get through life. So I feel like to have a balance, you really need to just take a moment to say, this was great, we did this, now on to the next one.
How do you see Atlanta in terms of positioning itself in technology and attracting talent and keeping talent here? And
there's been a concerted effort by the Metro Chamber of Commerce, the Georgia Chamber of Commerce, the governor's office, the mayor's office, to make Atlanta a better place for young technical professionals. This is not an accident, it's not a coincidence. A lot of small startup capital, angel funds have formed up. ICE has put $5 million recently, just this year, into an angel fund, all to try to help build the ecosystem here. And boy, compared to just 10 years ago, you can really see it in this community. If you're a young professional that wants a job in technology, there are a lot of different interesting places you can live in the metro area, and there are a lot of interesting companies that are being formulated here. Got to say one story about you, which one great thing about you is you are colorblind. You are the most diversity-oriented person I've ever met in my life. You didn't care if a person went to an Ivy League school or didn't graduate from high school. You didn't care if they were tall or short, black or white, red, yellow. You didn't care what religion they were. You didn't care if they were old or young. All you cared about was, can they do the job? For us, it was really just about talent, and having a guy like you that just didn't care about any of that. I mean, you were blind to these societal issues, and as a result of that, we got the most diverse workforce. And when you get a lot of diversity, particularly in tech, when you're trying to solve problems, you get a lot of viewpoints. And when we had an open kind of communicative argumentative culture where we would slave and fight over every major decision, it's good to have a lot of different viewpoints.
When the NYMEX did the deal with the CME to put their markets on Globex. And I don't know if you probably remember this too, but our stock fell like 60% in one day.
If you look 40%. At our stock chart, it was going to the moon, and there is a big crater in it.
And it was all because they felt like, okay, Globex, CME had the best technology, we had the worst technology, there's no way we're going to be able to keep up. Game over. NYMEX is going to win the global oil market, which we had been taken away. We had gotten to 50% at this point. And we were basically on the verge of giving them the knockout blow, and then all of a sudden they kind of flipped it and sold their soul to CME. And then that's the kind of thing that drove me, is that challenge. It's like, okay, I remember it was Newsom who was the president. He actually publicly said, we think that the ICE technology is suspect. And I remember putting that, I had a meeting like a day later with the whole team, and I put that up on the first slide. I put a picture of Newsom's face, the NYMEX, and that quote. And I said, this is what this guy said about us. And I said right then, we are going to create the fastest trading platform in the world. And the next 3 years, we did it.
This is the Cuban in you. When challenged, you were very quiet about it. I mean, you weren't a lot of bravado. You just went to that team and said, look what he said, this is what we're going to do. And that was an end of story, right? And then quietly, everybody went to work you know, with this mission to demonstrate that that people got us wrong. What'd you think?
That was fantastic. That was so much fun.
Yeah.
Jeff, it's always a treat. Thank you so much for today. It's always fun to hang out. And
Edwin, thanks for everything you did to help me in my life too, and for another fun day in our lives.
Yeah, this is, you know, it's been great being friends with you all this time and everything we did together and getting riding this fun, beautiful car. And, just learning.
You helped pay for this a little bit, by the way, with all the hard work you did. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you.